Hey everyone, it's that guy over there. I'm going to bring you a series of videos to go over the Tyranid Codex and a lot of the supplemental materials. That's kind of the weird thing about the Codex in this edition is you've got the Codex and then you've got 3 data slates with formations, and then you've got the Leviathan book. So you got Rising Leviathan 1, 2, and 3, and then you've got Leviathan, the rule book, that comes with some more formations and some like unit choices in there that are not in the main codex. So not only are there 34 units in the book, but you've got the 3 sets. It's like 9 formations, and then you got like 5 more formations in the Leviathan rulebook. Some of them are doubles. Like Leviathan, like just copy pasted some from the data slates, which is kind of frustrating. And then you've got a couple of unit choices in there. So uh, as well as like a special detachment. I'll cover all those later. But it's kind of it's a lot for a new player to be like, man, I need the codex, I need these data, like on my iPad, I need stuff, and then I need this other book. So, and this isn't even talking about Forge World. I'm not going to do Forge World just because my area doesn't allow it. So, but I'll kind of talk through. This one is just going to be the special rules, kind of the setup of the codex, and like the instinctive behavior tables. So, I'll start off by saying that Tyranids as a codex is generally seen as a weaker codex, and it's not because the units. Okay, but it's not because the codex itself is bad. It's because there are only a few units that really carry the codex through. So, Flying Hive Tyrants specifically, and then Sean Naden has done well with Lictors and Molochs. But if you flip through, you might not even know that some of these units exist, just because nobody ever plays them. So it's kind of a shame that a book with so many 34 units just in the book, and I mean people just do not use them. So anyway, I mean so it has done well competitively. It's won a couple GTs with the Lictor Shame list specifically, and the Flying Circus list is pretty good also. But there's not. It's not like Eldar where you could almost like roll a dice and randomly pick units and still have a pretty decent army. If you don't pick the right ratio of like instinct of synapse and not synaptic models, you're kind of in a hard spot already. And this is before you even consider things like anti-tank and things like that. So um, that's why it's seen as a weak codex, not because it cannot win tournaments, but because you really can only get away with taking certain unit choices before you drop out of the competitive bracket. So and it's kind of a challenge competitively. Fun wise, it's very different. It's very unique in that it's got a lot of rules that other armies don't have. Whether it be just like psychers everywhere. Not that psychers are really that great in 7th edition, but the sheer amount of monstrous creatures you can take, and beasts and flyers and flying monstrous creatures and there's just a lot of stuff in here. The recent edition of Haywire, you get a lot of weird Haywire weapons, and there's a few hidden gems in there. So I guess if you're what really inspired me to do this was I saw Tactica Imperialis's Astra Militarum review, and I thought that was really helpful. So I thought I'd weigh in as well. And because I'm sitting here next to 4 Tyranid codexes, which is every codex ever written except for the very first one. And I need to try to get one of those just for completeness' sake. But I've been playing Tyranids since I was 11, and I'm 27 now. So yeah, that's kind of a long time. It's kind of sad, but that I've been playing this long. But anyway, so I feel uniquely qualified to kind of talk about Tyranids, where they've come from and where they are now. So, all right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Forces of the Hive Mind. So, I'll skip over some of these fluff paragraphs, but really the biggest rules that you have to know for Tyranids that really only apply to us are instinctive behavior, shadow in the warp, and synapse creature. So the idea is that Tyranids they don't really think for themselves. Think of them as like cells in a greater organism. Each little termagon is really part of this greater hive conscience, and the hive mind directs these swarms where to go, and that's what makes them so efficient. However, the nodes that have the synaptic power to hold them together and give them commands, if you were to take those out, they would quickly lose their way, and the army would kind of fall apart. That's the whole idea behind Tyranids, if you weren't aware. So I guess we'll start out with. I know that this is kind of in the wrong order, but let's do Synapse Creature first. So models with the Synapse Creature rule have a Synapse range of 12 inches. Friendly Codex Tyranid models within Synapse range, including the Synapse creatures themselves, have the Fearless special rule. If a unit from Codex Tyranids is falling back and at least one of the unit's models is within friendly Synapse creature's Synapse range before the unit moves, the unit automatically regroups. So this is it didn't used to be this way. It was like if you were within 12 inches, you just had Fearless and then you would regroup. So now basically you have to be within Synapse range before you fall back, which only matters in some scenarios. Before it was like you could run back, be within 12 inches, and regroup. That's not the case. So actually, no, I think it would, because you get Fearless, and Fearless can't fall back, so you would rally. Anyway, so forget I mentioned that part. So yeah, so basically this is the thing that holds the Tyranid army together. Synapse creatures are kind of the way to go. They're like the Tyranid warriors, Tyranid hive tyrants, zoanthropes, the Turbogons. There's a few key creatures that have this rule, and you really need to either take these models or build your army in such a way that instinctive behavior, which is the next rule I'm going to cover, doesn't affect you. So, instinctive behavior. This special rule is always followed in brackets by a type, either lurk, hunt, or feed, which corresponds to a table opposite. At the beginning of each of your turns, all Codex Tyranid units with the special rule that are outside of the Synapse range of friendly Synapse creatures, see below, so that's the Synapse creature rule that I was talking about, must take a leadership test unless they are engaged in combat, falling back, have gone to ground, or arrived from reserve this turn. If the test is passed, the unit acts normally this turn. If the test has failed, the unit must roll a d6 on the appropriate instinctive behavior table. The effects of the result rolled last until the beginning of your next turn, unless specified otherwise. So this is the rule that can kind of make your army fall apart if you don't plan for it. So and I'll go through the tables now, and I'll kind of talk through each one as we do them. But like I said, you need to either build Synapse creatures into your lists or just don't take. Not every model has instinctive behavior. Synapse creatures do not have it, and then there's Ripper. Well, no, Rippers have it. Gene Stealers are the only ones that don't have instinctive behavior, or the spores. So like mucilid spores, sporocysts, and tyranocytes. So we'll talk about those too when we get to them. So anyway, first table, instinctive behavior lurk. So again, your leadership like 6 gaunts. I think there's 6 or 5. Roll 2d6. They're going to probably fail it, and now you roll on this chart. So Termagants have lurk. Not many models have lurk. It's like lictors, Termagants. I could go through them all here. So it is like the Death Leaper or any kind of lictor, Termagants. Yep, I already said lictor. Venomthropes. I think that's it. So there's just those couple. So, but this one's, I feel like, the worst one. So 1 to 3, it's called survive. So you roll your d6. 1 to 3, the unit is treated as having failed a morale test and must immediately fall back. So this is kind of dumb for lictors. They're leadership 10, but you're going to fail 1. It's 1 in 12 times you roll, something like that. One out of every 12 results is going to be a fail. So, you imagine your lictor infiltrates forward or deep strikes in, and then the next turn he fails his test and runs away. It's just kind of stupid because they're supposed to be like the vanguard organisms that have spent weeks hiding in a position waiting for the battle to start, and then to suddenly just like run away. That doesn't make any sense because they run out of cover towards your table edge and then die. Okay, so that's 50% of the time that happens with lurk. Seek cover. So in the movement phase, the unit is not slowed by difficult terrain, though its models must take dangerous terrain tests as normal. In the shooting phase, all of them pretty much have move through cover. But anyway, so in the shooting phase, the unit can run, but it can only shoot if it is in a building or area terrain. If the unit is partially within area terrain, only those models within the area terrain are allowed to shoot. The unit cannot charge in the assault phase. So again, we're going to stick with the lictors because termagants are pretty much always going to be within synapse range unless like the army has just completely fallen apart. So basically, 1 through 5, your lictor is not going to be able to assault. On a 4 and a 5, it could shoot as long as it's within terrain already. So lictors usually cling to terrain, but yeah. So like I said, see how these tables are really bad. Usually armies have special rules that make them better. Tyranids have army-wide fearless if you have synapse creatures, but if not, they have this special rule which makes them much worse. And it hasn't always been this way, but anyway, it's just a lot of bookkeeping to do these tables, so I kind of wish they hadn't done it. But anyway, stock, the following rules. This follows all rules for seek cover above, which is, hide in terrain and shoot as long as you're within terrain. In addition, the unit gains a stealth special rule. So actually, all of them prevent you from assaulting, which is what lictors want to do. And then on a 6, you get kind of like stealth, but lictors already have stealth, so it's just all bad. So lurk is the worst one. Luckily, not very many models have it. Okay, so hunt. Let's look and see what units have the hunt special rule. This one is kind of designed for like shooting creatures, which it's okay. It's not as bad as the other ones. It still prevents you from assaulting, but all right. So we're looking for hunt. So the Hive Guard have it. The Gargoyles have it. Harpy has it. Biovores have it. Exocrine has it, and the Tyranid has it. So again, all your shooting creatures. This one isn't nearly so bad. So 1 through 3 is burrow and hide. The unit immediately goes to ground. Units that contain at least one model with the fearless special rule treat this result as prowl, which is the next rule instead. So that's kind of nice. So Biovores don't have fearless, Hive Guard don't have fearless, but like your monstrous creatures, they can't go to ground. They're fearless, so they cannot there's no bad downside to being outside of instinctive behavior because 50 actually on a 1 through 5 you're going to get prowl result for those guys. So again, that's not terrible. So in the shooting phase, the unit cannot run. This is prowl. So on a 4 or 5 in the shooting phase, the unit cannot run and must instead shoot at the closest enemy unit that is within range and line of sight of at least one model in the Tyranid unit. If there's no viable target, the Tyranid unit can do nothing during the shooting phase. The unit cannot charge in the assault phase. So basically, you just have to shoot at the closest thing. So you lose control of what you can shoot at, but hopefully you can kind of move in such a way that your closest unit is what you want to hit. So it's not going to prevent you from shooting though, or prevent you from doing what you wanted to do. So Biovores 50% of the time will go to ground, but then 50% of the time they will just do this. And then on a 6, destroy. This follows all rules for prowl. In addition, the unit gains the preferred enemy special rule. So that's kind of nice. You do have to shoot the closest unit, but now you get preferred enemy, which lets you reroll ones for all the good that will do you. Hive Guard, that would probably help, but it's only 1 out of 6 times, and it's just not that reliable. Most of these, in some way, are going to affect the way you play the unit that turn. So you try to mitigate as much as you can, but hunt is not terrible. Next one is feed. This is everything else. Feed it can be terrible, but it could also be help you just a little bit. Well, I mean, again, it makes you lose control of your unit. So, for instance, on a 1 through 3, you get cannibalistic hunger. The unit immediately suffers a number of hits equal to the number of models in that unit. These hits are resolved using the unit's majority strength. If drawn, use the highest and AP dash. Wounds are allocated by the owning player, and armor saves, but not cover saves, may be taken. After resolving casualties, if any, the unit can do nothing else until the end of the turn. Units consisting only of a single model treat this role as Devour, which is the next rule, instead. So, a single Carnifex, um, he's not going to like hit himself. A unit of Carnifexes are going to beat each other and then stand there because they can't do anything now. A unit of Hormagaunts, like 30 Hormagaunts, they will take 30 strength 3 hits, and half of them will die. They have a 6+ armor save, but like half of them just die, and then they stand there as long as they pass their morale check. And yeah, it can be terrible. So like Hormagaunts have to stay within range, or else they could just eat themselves, and it's really terrible. Whereas like Rippers, um, Rippers, you take 3 Rippers in a squad, they can just sit there and like eat themselves in peace in the corner, and they aren't gonna die. They're fearless, so they can't. And plus, on average, they only do like 1 wound, and each one of them has 3. So you can actually kind of negate it on some of the units, but like Hormagaunts and a unit of Carnifexes would be terrible. Devour in the shooting phase, you cannot shoot or run. In the assault phase, if the unit is able to declare a charge, it must do so against the closest viable enemy unit. The unit cannot declare a charge. If the unit cannot declare a charge, it does nothing in the assault phase. So it keeps you from shooting, it keeps you from running. It's kind of annoying. Like if you had a Twin Link Devourer Carnifex, he can't shoot his 12 shots, and then um, if he doesn't, like if he's not within range to charge, then that's terrible. And then Kill is the last one. Follows all the rules for Devour. In addition, the unit gains Rage, but I mean that's just not a very good benefit. So as you can see, none of these tables really help you. They really affect the way you're playing your army, and it's just kind of annoying, especially when you lose your last synapse creature and you have to take a leadership check every turn, and then roll and consult the table and figure out which table you use, and it's just kind of annoying. So instinctive behavior, mitigate it the best you can. You can do that with synapse creatures, or um, just not taking models with instinctive behavior. All right, so Shadow in the Warp is the last one. It says all enemy units and models with the Psychic Pilot, or Brotherhood of Psyker special rule suffer a -3 penalty to their leadership whilst they are within 12 inches of one or more models with the Shadow in the Warp special rule. Now, to me, they rewrote this rule poorly. In my opinion, it should say if they are within synapse range of one or more Shadow in the Warp models with Shadow in the Warp special rule. So this is your synapse creatures. All synapse creatures come with Shadow in the Warp. The reason why I say it should say within synapse range is because if you are a Hive Tyrant with the Norn Crown within 6 inches of the Sporocyte and you've rolled Synaptic Linchpin, you can have 12, 18, 24. You can have a 30-inch synapse range. And then if you cast Dominion, now you've got 36-inch synapse range, which is a radius. So it's 5 feet across. Almost the whole table is going to be covered just by this one model, as opposed to just 12 inches around you. So I think they wrote that poorly. But it's like this, the Swarm Lord just comes with 18 inches because he just gets that Warlord trait, but it has to be within 12. It could have been good, but they wrote it poorly, so now it's bad. So, but it's nice. I mean, what it used to do is you'd roll like a leadership check to cast a power. Now, if you perils, it's going to reduce your chances of passing that leadership test, and you could get sucked down the drain or whatever. It's not as good. But then you're just -3 leadership all the time, which can also help once you start taking morale checks, and your leadership 10 Farseer with the leadership 8 Guardians is now leadership 8 like the Guardians are. So it can help. All right, so Warlord traits. We'll do this part quickly and then wrap it up. But I tend to think I always roll on the strategic. The Tyranid Warlord traits aren't really that great. Some of them actually hurt you. So yeah, let me just go through them. So on a 1, you get Nature's Bane. At the beginning of each of your movement phase, you may select one forest, jungle, or wood terrain piece within 12 inches of your warlord. That terrain becomes a carnivorous jungle and remains so for the remainder of the game, even if it was previously a different type of forest. So I think that just makes it have dangerous terrain, but Most of your models have move through cover, but you would hate to send something in there that doesn't, and then it gets attacked. You don't want the carnivorous jungle to be all around you, because now you that's where you're trying to hide. So, and how often do you see a forest on the table? Not very often. Usually they're buildings, so not so good. Two heightened senses. The warlord and all friendly models from Codex Tyranids within 12 inches of it have the night fight or night vision special rule. That's okay. You get ignore cover, or you ignore the stealth if it's night fighting, but really you don't have a lot of shooting that like ignores armor saves anyway. So I don't think it's really that effective. Synaptic Linchpin, the Warlord Synapse range is 18 inches. This one's pretty good because again, you really need to hold down all your instinctive behavior units, and having 18 inches is great. And then you can get all these other upgrades and have a huge synaptic bubble if you wanted to. So I appreciate that. And Turbogons, we'll talk about them later, but if they get this, if you want to use them as your warlord, then they can hold down a unit of Termagants, and then when they die, if Gaunts are within 12 inches, they get synaptic backlash, and they also like take a bunch of hits. So if you have this, they can be within synapse range, but not within 12 inches, and not die horribly when the Turbogon dies. So it has some uses. Mind Eater. Swarm Lord gets that one automatically. The Mind Eater, which is what Death Leaper gets. I really like Death Leaper. Always have since he came out in the last book. Your army gains 2 victory points for each enemy model with the independent character special rule slain by your warlord in a challenge. Killing an independent character as a result of a sweeping advance does not award these victory points. It can really unbalance the game, like unhinge the game, if you kill a lot of independent characters. But a lot of tournaments have a way to balance that out, right? Because like if you have 3 objectives and they're each one's worth 1 point, but then you killed 3 independent characters, there's no way for your opponent to catch up. So I don't know how you'd work that into every. You really have to look and see how that works into every tournament scenario you play. Digestive denials on a 5 after deployment, but before scout redeployments and infiltrate deployments. Now take 1 piece of terrain in your enemy deployment zone. This may not be one your opponent has purchased as part of their army. The terrain's cover save is reduced by 1 for the duration of the game to a minimum of 6+. Note that a piece of terrain can only be affected by this ability once. I don't know how you could. I guess maybe if you. I don't know how you would do that more than once, but it sucks. You need terrain to be full cover because that's how you get cover saves. And so if you pick something in your enemy deployment zone, at some point you're going to be hiding in there. Like part of me wants to roll on the warlord trait just because I have Tyranids, unless I'll do all the Tyranid stuff. But number 5, I'm fearful that I would get number 5 and like reroll and get another 5, and now I'm hurting myself with absolutely no benefit because my opponent probably is not using that against me anyway. Because I can't reduce their like Aegis defense line or anything like that. That might be useful, but you can't do that. So adaptive biology. This is number 6. If your warlord suffers 1 or more unsaved wounds, it gains the feel no pain 5+ special rule at the beginning of its next movement phase and keeps it for the remainder of the game. So this is really bad because you probably will not get feel no pain because it starts at the beginning of your next movement phase. So let's say you have a swarm, like a hive tyrant that has this, and he charges in, and they overwatch. He's the last model for whatever reason. He takes a wound. Or heck, I don't know. Like if a Helldrake flies over, no, that's not good. So again, he's charging in. They get overwatched with like a plasma gun. He gets a hit, a wound. You take a wound. You get a 5+ feel no pain save at the beginning of your next movement phase. So theoretically, you could go in there. Like a power fist could do a couple wounds. You might kill the whole squad. So I guess maybe the power fist when maybe they run away, you don't catch them or whatever, and then the opponent gets their whole next turn to shoot at you. You still don't have that feel no pain, and then at the beginning of your next movement phase, now you have the feel no pain. So you can kind of see how, heck, even a shooting phase, if you get lit up by 3 plasma gun squads, it's not like, oh great, I only took 1 wound this time, now I get to feel no pain. No, it's at the beginning of your next movement phase. So as you can see, not so good. Wouldn't recommend taking them. And really, that's all I got for this part. A lot of the Tyranid stuff is not super awesome as far as special rules. And so this is kind of the part of the section that you're trying to avoid as much as possible. You like the Fearless, but you do not like anything else. So anyway, thanks for watching. The other videos will have much more positive outlooks and a little more tactics on how to use them, but kind of how to make it through the part first. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.